Hello and welcome to Meet the Candidates. We have a great candidate for you today to talk with us and let you know a little more about her and what she is running for. And I'm not even going to sit here and try to tell you anything about her because that's why she's here. So we're going to jump right in and welcome Miss Paula Dance to Meet the Candidates.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so tell us who is Paula Dance and who is what is Paula Dance running for?
Again, my name is Paula Dance. I am a 28-year veteran of law enforcement. That has been my career for the last 28 years. And I am running for your elected sheriff of Pitt County.
hmm Now, okay, so tell us a little bit about, I guess, your background and what makes you feel that you're the best candidate.
Okay. I started my career in 1990 in Martin County, transitioned over to Pitt County in about 94. Started off here as a patrol deputy. Within 3 years, I was promoted to the sergeant of the domestic violence unit, which was a newly created unit that focused directly on the issue of domestic violence.
hmm
In 1998, I was promoted to a major crimes investigator, and that's where I spent the majority of my career, the next 10 years or so.
hmm
During that tenure, I handled some of the most high profile homicides and robberies in this county. I also investigated major felonies such as child abuse, child sex abuse, rape, fraud, and any other major crime or felonious crime that you can think of.
hmm
And so I left briefly in 2008. I was a hospital police officer for about a year. And then in 2010, I came back to Pitt County Sheriff's Office.
hmm
Um, when I came back in, I was the lieutenant of investigations. I ran the investigative unit. And then I was promoted a few years later to captain of investigations.
hmm
And the difference between lieutenant and the captain is lieutenant, I was just in charge of the investigators in the investigative unit. But as captain, that then encompassed being in charge of the drug unit.
hmm
But in 2013, I became the first female to become the major of Pitt County Sheriff's Office.
hmm
So, what that position is, or what it entails, is being in charge of all units, to include the patrol division, the investigative division, the civil division, and operations. As major, that made me the third in charge.
hmm
Now, to explain the hierarchy of the sheriff's office, there is the sheriff, who is the top
Right.
person,
Okay.
and then there is the second in command, who was the chief deputy.
hmm
And then there was me. I was the third in command of the agency.
hmm
I am still the third in command of the agency. I point that out in some ways to reflect the confidence that was put in my abilities to run and manage the sheriff's office.
hmm
As major, I also was involved in some parts of the budget and planning of the budget and understanding how to be a good steward of the county's money.
hmm
So my managerial experience was vast throughout the entire sheriff's department.
Now, I guess one of the questions is that with people watching the show and we're talking about the sheriff department, two questions that I would ask. One first, and that was, explain to, I guess, people who they see the sheriff, they know some duties of the sheriff, but and the sheriff office is countywide.
Hmm.
And for some of the people that listen that may not understand some of the details of what a sheriff is responsible for and what the sheriff actually do most of the time. And then the second question would be probably talk a little bit about your platform and what would make you the best sheriff for Pitt County.
Okay.
It's not too loaded, is it?
Well, there's two questions,
Two
but I will
questions,
try to
but
remember the second.
okay.
To answer your first question, the sheriff is the highest law enforcement official in the county. Yes, we do encompass the entire county. or we are in charge of enforcing laws in the entire county. However, our purview is mainly in the rural areas. So the sheriff's duties are many. One of the duties of the sheriff is the detention center, maintaining the detention center. And that is making sure that we are keeping our citizens safe from people who are incarcerated for various crimes. And also at the same time making sure that those people are taken care of, that their needs are met, and that they make their court appearances and things of that nature. So the detention center is a very big part of the sheriff's office. One of the other duties of the sheriff is to maintain security at the courthouse. We do this through bailiffs. When you see the bailiffs in the courtroom, they are employed by the sheriff's department, and they are deputies. And so they maintain security of the courthouse and the courtrooms. Another thing that the sheriff is solely responsible for are civil papers. So there are papers that only a sheriff's deputy can serve. When you think about your municipalities, such as Greenville Police Department and the other various police departments, they cannot serve civil papers. So that duty falls solely upon the sheriff. That is a big part of what we do. And when we're talking about civil papers, we're talking about divorces, we're talking about executions, we're talking about judgments that people may have against someone on money owed, serving papers for money owed. So there is a litany of things that involve just totally civil matters and that we are solely responsible for. The other thing that the sheriff, or another thing that the sheriff is responsible for, of course, is the safety of the community, specifically those in the rural areas. We answer breaking and enterings, and we answer any type call that a citizen may have a concern about that just happens to lie in the rural areas or in the county areas. We investigate the major crimes, like as I spoke about a few minutes ago, is one of my biggest duties for quite some time. So everything that a law enforcement officer in any jurisdiction can do, we do, but we do more as it relates to the security of the courthouse, serving civil papers, and also the detention center. The second part of your question, I believe, was what was my platform?
Your platform. What is it about the becoming the sheriff for Pitt County that I guess I would say, what is it that you bring to the table? We talked about your experience and all that, but in your mind or whatever, and your everyday living in Pitt County, understanding the sheriff department, why are we voting for Paula Dance?
Well, I bring to you the most experience of anyone that is seeking that seat. I, again, have been involved in a managerial position as the third in command since 2013. This allows me to move into a seat that is going to be vacated by the sheriff now. There will be minimal interruption. There will be no learning curve or a time that it would take for me to learn something. To keep this office going. I know what it takes to continue this office in the professional way that has been deemed so far. So the focus that I intend to there are many, but the main focus is, I will name 3 at this point, that I will continue to focus on, is, of course, school safety. That is very important, that our children are safe. My kids went to school here. My grandchildren or grandson goes to school here.
And most of the people know that the resource officers are sheriff department.
Absolutely. The school resource officers are sheriff's deputies. And so actually at one point I was a school resource officer, so I do have that experience. I bring that experience with me also. it was such a short time that I did it, but for 6 months, I do have that experience in the school. But that is very important to me. It is my intent to work with the schools in an effort to keep our schools as safe as possible. Our children are our future, and we have to maintain and protect the integrity of the schools, their safety. When a parent sends their child off to school, they don't send them off. I mean, they're thinking they're sending them off for a higher education,
Right.
to give them the tools that they need to succeed in the world. You know, there used to be a day that when kids went to school, the only drills that they did were the drills that gave them information on how to protect themselves when a tornado was coming, or the stop, drop, and roll of a fire drill. Today, our parents are horrified to ask their children when they come home in the evening, what did you learn in school today? Well, I learned how to hide when someone enters the school with a nefarious reason to harm us, or to enter with a gun. So, you know, of course, that's horrifying to have to know that our children are having to protect themselves in that sense. So certainly I want to work with the schools in giving them the resources that we have to make sure that our children are safe. One of the other issues that is very important to me is the opioid epidemic. There was a time when heroin could only be found in one place in Pitt County. But then came the prescription drugs, and people became addicted to prescription drugs. And so there was something that the state then put in place because people began to doctor shop so much. In other words, they would go and see 3 or 4 doctors to get the same prescription so that they can feed that habit of that narcotic habit, or that addiction, I'm sorry.
Right.
And so the state then put in place a system in which if you were to now go into the doctor's office and you're getting a prescription, they put your name in a system. And if your name pops up, or if you have already been prescribed that prescription from another doctor or several other doctors, then it alerts that doctor not to write you a prescription. You are then doctor shopping.
Right.
And so when that came about, then it was harder for people who were addicted to get the prescription drugs. So what happened was they needed to get that high, they needed to feed that habit, so they turned to heroin, which is cheap. And so here we are today, that you can get heroin almost anywhere in the county. Whereas back in the day, it used to be just one place you could get heroin. So many times our officers are faced with arriving on a scene first where someone has overdosed. We do have Narcan that we supply our officers. That will aid or bring back the person by the use of the Narcan spray to revive them until rescue can get there. That has been a big benefit. It has helped a lot, or to save a lot of lives. One of the other things that I want to do is I want to do something in the jail, or get some kind of collaborative with the community, to include the spiritual leaders, to include counselors who will come in and address treatment for people who are in our detention center. Now, mind you, the people in our detention center are there very short term. So it would not be feasible that we would be from beginning to end of treatment, but what we can do is give them the tools or a resource on the outside to continue treatment. If you can help someone with the drug treatment, then that's a win-win because crime goes down.
Right.
You know that a lot of times people will go out and commit crime to be able to afford their habit. So we have a win-win there. It helps the person gives them some resources for treatment, and it also makes crime go down.
Well, one of the questions that I want to jump in and ask you on a kind of with everything that goes on, I mean, because I know you probably could, you know, you've been in this a long time, and you're like everybody else in your profession. When you know it, you can talk all day long.
Absolutely.
Okay, but I want to get in a kind of this question here. When you're talking, people see you, women see you, young ladies see you, girls see you, what you know, in the sheriff department. And I guess I would ask a question. I wanted to get this in. What made you go into law enforcement, and how do you? And I can tell you're passionate about it, but I guess some insight to people that are listening to you right now, not only the females but the males, the rewarding aspect of being in the sheriff department.
Well, and that was a 3 or 4 pronged question too.
Kind of, sort of, and you know, I'm gonna have, because there's so much to talk
right,
about, and I wanted to kind of see, let people see you in that light.
Okay, so you know, when I initially got into law enforcement, I didn't know that this was what I wanted to do. When I started off with Martin County Sheriff's Office, I actually went in as a jailer / clerk, but then I started to see the people who came to the sheriff's office, or the, you know, for assistance, and I saw how our deputies responded out, and realized, you know, this is a very rewarding job, because you get to help others. I know that a lot of times people will think, oh, y'all just arrest people. There's a whole lot more to us than just arresting people. There are a whole lot more people that we help than we arrest. We do arrest people because that is our job, to enforce the laws of the state. But if people were to look at what we actually do in helping people, in helping to give them resources that may aid them in whatever issues that they're having at the time. There have been times, you know, that I recall just a few words that I said to a person helped them to move on or know where to go in their life to make things better for themselves. So it is a very, very rewarding job. When I got in and I saw what it really was about, I saw the other side, aside from the arrest, then I knew that was my niche. I have a compassion, or a passion and compassion and empathy for people. I just have a public servant's heart. I realized that very quickly when I was in Martin County and decided to go through the academy. Did so, came out of the academy, and I got sworn in as a sworn deputy, and then transitioned over here. But I love what I do, and you know, whether you're a man or a woman, do you really think that people, when they're in need and they call for help, care? Right. Whether it's a man or a woman coming? Exactly. They just want somebody coming.
Some help, right.
So there's never been an issue when I've gone to the many crime scenes, some that included people with a gun, some that included going into dark spaces that I didn't know what I would find. You know, there's never been an issue with it being a woman or a man that came to aid. So I've gone out. I've worked very, very hard. I have not asked for any concessions because I'm a woman. I've done the things that everyone else does, and I enjoy doing them. And I enjoy helping people.
Well, Paula, listen, it's been great having you here this morning. I know you got a lot to say, a lot more to say. That's why you're probably on the campaign trail, and you probably have to get going. But before you go, I want you to look into this camera over my shoulder and just, again, why are you asking for their vote?
Yes. Again, I have believed that I have shown a committed, dedicated history of with my work ethic in this agency, in law enforcement. I intend to be a sheriff for everybody. I love what I do. My experience should be what catapults me or sets me apart from anyone else that is running. I have a proven history of integrity, and I believe that I am ready to lead. I am in a position now that basically puts me leading this department. All it is a changing of the seats. I am prepared, I am ready, and I submit to you that I am the most qualified that is running, and that on December the 3rd can change seats and step right in, and we never miss a beat, for the safety of our community and for the safety of our children and the safety of our citizens. I would appreciate your support. You can go to www.dance4sheriff.com, and you can read about the rest of my initiatives and my plan to keep this agency and move this agency on in keeping with the status of being one of the most respected law enforcement agencies in the state. I thank you for your time and your consideration and support.
Well, thank you, Paula, and good luck to you on the campaign trail. This has been Meet the Candidates. This is Ernest Lee, your host, and we thank you for watching. And again, continue to tune in to GPAT TV as we bring you more of Meet the Candidates. And hopefully, as we say with Ms. Dance, you know, good luck to all of you, and we look forward to hearing from even more of you about the candidates out there. So until next time, have a great day.